Nation podcast. It is Wednesday, October 27th. We have a great episode. Great episode. Kevin, our run of just great guests continues. We had Adam Hogue, which Dan Orlowski calls him Adam Hoagie. We had Adam Johns. We had Jared Payton last week. And we're just going to get right to it. We have another incredible guest today on Bears Nation podcast. Myself, Jake Hassan, with Kevin Lepka. And today we are joined by a man who, if you have ears and if you enjoy sports, at some point you've heard this man and probably seen him in some capacity over the last couple of years. Adam Amin joins the program today. Bulls play-by-play announcer, NFL football play-by-play announcer, MLB, everything. Adam, welcome to the show, man.
Boys, thanks for having me, man. This is awesome.
We have a really good run of Adams going, I noticed. You're our
third.
We do.
The Adams are going.
That's true. I'm fans of both the Adams that you discussed. In particular, Adam Sandwich, as I texted him the other day. That's our good friend Adam Sandwich, doing great work on the Bears beat.
Adams.
Well, we'll be using that in the future when we reach out to him again. So thank you for that. But Adam, again, thank you for coming. You're calling the Bears game this weekend. So, I mean, the timing couldn't be better. We did not plan this. We had this set for a couple weeks. Then you happen to be calling the Bears-Niners game this weekend. You did some preseason work for the Bears before, and now your first regular season Bears game as a Chicago guy. How's it feel? All right, cool. This is good radio. This is really good.
A little frozen there. I think he's a little frozen.
Sorry. Well, this wouldn't be this podcast if it weren't for general nonsensicalness.
Yeah, it happens, man.
Feels like
this is the era.
Oh man,
there he's back
happens.
now. Oh, you're good. Now we got you.
I like everything froze up there, and we were doing so well, and I feel bad. I'm sorry, guys, but
you're good.
I'm glad to be on with you, and yeah, I'm glad to continue the line of Adams.
Yeah, no, it's good. So, right before we lost you for a hot second there, you've done Bears preseason stuff. You happen to be calling the Bears this weekend. How's it feel to do your first regular season Bears game as a Chicago guy?
Yeah, man. It's I always loved doing. I was at ESPN Radio, but this is a little bit different, right? You're doing it.
Oh, sorry, guys.
Very good.
Hey, Justin, we might have to take him off and bring him back.
And Justin joins the program.
Hey, what's up, y'all?
Executive producer Justin Kaufman, everybody.
What's up, man?
For Adam, a big audience, it's a weird.
We're losing you, Adam. So my guess would be to probably re-log in, log out.
Justin, the IT guy, is coming through now.
Yeah,
we're doing our best.
Adam, my guess would be because you keep coming in and out and freezing. Maybe shut off, come back through on the link, and we'll try again. That's probably the best bet.
Hey, Adam, welcome back.
See, it's so in and out.
I know.
I love it. I love this show. I love this show.
All right, here we go.
All right, Kevin. Hey, how's it going, man? What's up?
Interesting start. Yeah. So okay. For the people who don't know, again, we'll say it. Play-by-play man, the Chicago Bulls, Adam Amin, calling Bears-Niners. I think he's going to come back here, shut down the link for a little bit. But, man, I mean, just like we'll get into our preview a little bit until Adam gets back this week, this game. It's not going to be the Lance Fields game we expected, right? I mean, weeks ago, we were like, this is going to be.
It's still going to be a make your eyes bleed game.
My guy, Matthew Anderson, is saying this is gold. Yeah, far from it. Hey, this is what happens, man, in the modern era of technology. This is
what happens when you do live shows. Folks,
live shows are prone to mistakes. All right. See, Jake, I don't know if the people understand. We tape this podcast live every week. Like for obviously the people who are watching this know that. So, but for the people who comment. Well, yeah. I mean, for the people commenting, obviously. But for the people who listen to it back, all the listeners that we have, a majority of them who listen to it after the fact, I know do a lot. So the errors are bound to happen when it comes to technology and the internet connection. I don't know if where Adam is, but it's down, but it'll be back. Let us know. Justin just dropped in the chat when we're ready to go. But anyway, we can riff with Kevin for a little bit. Kevin, who was almost not here because he got locked out of his dorm. But dorm. Like, come on. I'm a senior in college, Jake. Oh, he's back. Okay.
All right. Let's try this again. Evan Amin joins the program.
Part two. Wow. Here we go.
This is big time now. Now we're stepping into the big time. I like this.
Yeah, now we're rocking.
We're giving the people inside baseball here. It's all right. They love it.
Yeah, this is the glamour of media in 2021, guys. So welcome to it. Glad everything's going great. No,
couldn't be a smoother start.
Outstanding. Now, glad to be with you guys. Legitimately, I think you asked just what it's like in terms of being a part of this now as like an actual Fox NFL broadcaster. You know, it was always fun doing it on the radio. I've done a half a dozen games. I think most memorably doing the Baltimore Ravens Chicago Bears tornado game where a fan was running across the field during a weather delay. Thrilling game that ended at like 7 o'clock at night or something like that. I think it was like the CBS late game. We had a 45-minute hour delay. But no, it's going to be awesome. It's exciting to be home. That's the other nice thing is, we got a Bulls game tomorrow and Saturday night. So I get to stay, usually I don't get to call Saturday night games for the Bulls because I'm usually out of town for NFL. But this week I get to do it since they're playing the Jazz at home. And it just feels like, this last 3-4 weeks getting to do White Sox and Bears and Bulls. It's pretty awesome, man. It's been really, really cool.
Yeah.
It's
hopefully Sunday goes better than it did for the White Sox. But I mean, the Bulls are treating you nicely.
So far, yeah. That's I worry a little bit. I'm sure a lot of people are wanting to, if they haven't like gone all in, they want to, and the reason they're hesitant is because the schedule was fairly light in the early part of the season. You saw what happened Monday night, pretty good test, and now the schedule is going to get really tough. So I'm sure a lot of people are a little hesitant, understandably so, and obviously Zach LaVine's thumb issue has freaked some people out too, and rightfully so. But hopefully everything will be all right.
Yeah, Zach LaVine dealing injury. Bears dealing with an injury of their own with Khalil Mack now, as I'm sure, as you know, with that foot and everything. So for this week, looking at this game, the way I see it, these two teams, you kind of look at it as two teams who I think are more capable than what they've shown on the field. They both have great wins.
Let's just call it what it is. It's a make your eyes bleed game. It's a make your eyes bleed game.
Is it? I mean, one of these teams, I think what we're going to see on Sunday is one of these teams is going to come away looking better than they did the week prior. And Adam, just in your review and analysis ahead of the game, what do you like from both these teams? What do you think both of them bring to the table? Because the reason why I asked you that is a lot of people don't know. Like, a lot of people don't know the identity of either of these teams at this point in the season.
I agree. And I think a lot of the attention gets paid to what the Bears do poorly offensively because, again, they haven't had a particularly great game this year. Even in the 3 wins this season, they have, maybe the Cincinnati win at times was impressive, but a lot of that had to do with what they did defensively. That's been kind of the hallmark. And I think a lot of the discussion around the city with this team has been, well, can they win games without the defense having to put points up? Can they do something offensively that's consistent? I think there is a deep passing game there. I think you have an ability here with Fields if you can protect. That's the biggest problem going into this game against San Francisco is because Nick Bosa has been very good this year. Now, will they have Dee Ford? We'll find out. He was, I don't believe he was a participant in practice today, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But he was dealing with a concussion, so they lose a little bit of their pass rush. If you can hold up a little bit on Bosa, maybe help out on the edges and help out the tackles a little bit. Hopefully you have Larry Borum back this week to maybe at least give you some backup. But if you can contain Nick Bosa, there are holes in the San Francisco defense, which I do believe you can exploit a little bit with Justin Fields' arm. Now, on the other side, I've had San Francisco twice already this season. Neither time were they particularly impressive. They squeaked out a win against Philadelphia. They won on good defense. We've kind of learned, that Philadelphia is a little touch and go at times. And then Seattle pre-Russell Wilson's injury, when they were looking pretty sharp, didn't play particularly well offensively in that game either. I think there's a lot to be said about the run game for San Francisco. They were one of the more intricate run games in the NFL. They do a lot of pre-snap motion. They do a lot of shifting. There's a lot of eye candy. They're trying to open up space for not only their run game early, but eventually guys like Deebo Samuel in the short passing game late, Brandon Ayuk, if they can start to get him going behind the line of scrimmage. So those are a couple of things. These two, I agree with you, Kevin. I think these are two teams that do some things well. They just have not done them consistently, and whatever holes that they have been exploited pretty well by their opponents so far.
Well, you mentioned you already had San Francisco twice, and I mean, you've seen, a ton of teams. Obviously, you're out there every Sunday. So going into this game, I mean, how do you compare? I mean, because you're also a Chicago guy. We know this. If you haven't, I don't know where you've been for the last however long years. But, when you're approaching this game and you're with a Bears, legend in Greg Olsen, I mean, as, a Chicago guy yourself, how do you stack up the Bears with the other teams you see? And off of that, too, like, how do you go into this game when you have Greg Olsen next to you? Like, how do you, as an announcer, as a play-by-play guy, go into this game too?
I mean, that's gotten less and less of an issue as time has gone on. I think it would be the hardest if I suddenly were doing national NBA games and had to jump in and do a Bulls game nationally. That might, be a little bit different. But as White Sox fans know, and some to their chagrin, they're not fans of it and they don't like that style, and that's okay. Like, no. As a sidetrack, I'm watching the World Series, and I was listening to a podcast earlier today with Joe Buck on it. And I was just kind of listening to him. Obviously, I get to be a colleague of his now, which is pretty cool. And he was talking just about how his biases kind of like were hard to navigate through when he was with the Cardinals early in his career, right? And I get that, but he also said baseball fans are the most fickle when it comes to that because you get the most time with your team. You get more time. You get twice as much time with Jason and Steve as you're going to get with me and Stacy in a year. Like that's almost or close to twice the amount of time. They're going to be on for 140 times for 3 hours a night. Of course, you're going to get more used to them than you would with anybody else. So I understand it. And I'm sure it might sound a little bit jarring if the Bears are playing poorly and Greg and I have to talk about it. Now, the thing is, Greg and I, for the most part, I think are generally positive people. We try to find the positive in places where we can. At least he is. I'm probably a little bit more critical than he is, and that's okay. Like he's a former player. Remember, he's 1 year out of this. Like he was just playing last year with Seattle. Like he was supposed to start full time with Fox last year, but listen, Seattle offers you $7 million. You take the $7 million, and I respect that, and I frankly applaud the
always take the money.
Applaud that move. So well done to my friend Greg. You will be paying for dinner on Friday night when we go out. But no, he's a very positive person, but like he's just out of it. So he really feels it. Like you have to remember the human side of it. And I think that's perfect for Greg because he really empathizes with the ups and downs that these guys deal with. So I don't think it affects me that much. I've never said anything personal about anybody. I like the rule that I always learned from people that did it before me and the advice that I was always given. If you wouldn't say it to somebody's face, if you wouldn't feel comfortable saying it to somebody's face, don't say it. Like if they shoot a bad shot and you say, hey, you shot a bad shot, what are they going to say? You're lying? No, you saw it. But if you say something like I would never say anything personal about anybody. I'm not that type of person to begin with, but that's just not what you do professionally. So I feel like we can play it pretty fair down the middle. I'm sure I will see some things and feel some of the same frustrations that maybe you guys will if they're not playing particularly well. I want them to play well. I want them to do well. I have friends that work for that team. Obviously, I do their preseason games, so I get to know that group, and I want good things for them. But you get to talk to the 49ers, and you talk to George Kittle, and you talk to Jimmy Garoppolo, and you talk to Fred Warner, and you want good things to happen for them too. So I think that attitude just kind of is encompassing of how we want to approach the broadcast anyway.
All right, so what we'll do is you text us what you're thinking, and then we won't say who it's from, but we'll
listen, guys. All right, listen. All right, what I said in the second quarter. Here's what I actually meant. Like that's. All
right, good. I got a deal.
Oh man, I gotta say too, this like we've had a lot of guests on the show, but man, just you being a broadcaster, that voice, the crispness of the voice is absolutely phenomenal. It's phenomenal. But it's funny as you talk about that, like even not just guys who have, some sort of allegiance and some sort of ties to Chicago, like even Tony Romo last week was kind of like, saying certain things like, man, because when you see a team underperforming on the field, like it's noticeable. And you're right. Have you ever felt that? Like you see, even it's not a team that you could care less about, you see them underperforming and you just like, man, they're so much more capable of what you're seeing.
Well, I'll bring up the Sox for that reason, because like, I'm sitting in the booth for game one of that series, And I know the Astros are really good. I'm frustrated watching the Sox because, again, I'm not a Sox broadcaster per se, but I live here. My friends work for the team. Jason's a friend of mine. I want good things to happen for them, and I do fill in once in a while. And I want good things to happen for this organization. And like, it's frustrating to me when it wasn't as much in game 1 because that's the opener of a series, and we're just trying to get our bearings. Game 4 was frustrating. I was legitimately frustrated watching how badly they played, because you just expect more. And, the Tepera comments were really annoying to me, just personally. Like we gave both sides of it on the broadcast, whether you wanted both sides cheating or not. I don't care. That's my job. I did my job. I have no issue with how I did my job. But I was annoyed as just like a person who lives here going like, why would you say that? Like, you shouldn't be saying that about a good team, like, especially when they embarrassed you the next day. So I'm sitting there going like, all of that, just a day and a half, because they had that extra day with the rain out in between. That day and a half was just like the build up to that. And then for them to fall flat like they did in game 4 and just put up nothing was really frustrating to watch. So yeah, when I see a team underperform, it's annoying to me. And I think part of it too, and this is probably the bigger reason, is that all I root for truly at the end of the day is just give me a good game. I need a good game. I did all this work. Our crew works so hard. You have 3 hours that you're dedicating to that game on your day off. We want to be entertained, and give me a good game. I know what you're all capable of. You're all professional athletes. You're all very good at what you do, and you're handsomely rewarded for it, and you should be. So when you don't perform that way, I get upset as a fan of what I'm watching. You get upset as a fan of the team that you root for. So it's all understandable. And nobody doesn't feel that way that is invested in this in some capacity. They want to be entertained. They want to have a good time. Granted, I'm sure it's more fun for a home team's fan if their team is doing really, really well or blowing a team out. But I think they're not going to turn down a good game. They just want their team to win at the end, but they're not going to turn down being entertained.
All right, so that being said, so what do you have prepared for us on Sunday? What's some of these fun little nuggets you got for us?
Well, I mean, it's only Wednesday, man. You got to give me some time here. But well, I mean, the big thing is you guys mentioned earlier the Mac injury, along with Robert Quinn potentially being out again. That's more than half the pass rush. Remember, the Bears lead the NFL in sacks right now. It's been a very solid year. Like I give Robert Quinn a lot of credit. He talked about it. Now he's being about it, and I respect that. And obviously he's on the COVID list right now, but like, you're losing half your pass rush. This has been an issue for San Francisco. Garoppolo has a tendency to hold on to the football too long. He wants to throw downfield if he can. He wants to show off that he's got a good arm. He wants to show that off. So he wants to throw deep. So he has a tendency to hold on to the football sometimes and not check down. If it's not a deep shot that he's looking for, they take a lot away from him and just try to keep it short and fast, because this is one of the best yards after catch teams in the NFL the last few years. Kittle's on the IR, obviously, so that notwithstanding, that is important because you lose a good blocker that helps out in pass protection, but you're still losing Mack and Quinn. So who's going to generate a pass rush for you? I think that was one of the biggest things that we took a look at. Obviously, defensively, too many big plays. I mean, that first drive alone, the way they gave up 2 big chunk plays, one in the pass game, one in the run game, and then all of a sudden it's a touchdown for Fournette. Like, you can't give up big plays. And this is a team that is really capable of big plays, if not in the deep shot game, which, they've tested some teams and, their success rate is okay. It's not overly impressive, but where they really can hurt you is in space. And the guy that we already mentioned, Deebo Samuel, is the guy. Nobody has been better in yards after catch for the last 2 seasons in the NFL than that guy has been. And he is the best player on the field, I think, tomorrow. When San Francisco has the football, I think he is the best player on the field. With no Khalil Mack on the field, he is the best player on the field. He's the biggest game breaker possibility. He's the one who can break multiple tackles. And with the way Eddie Jackson has been tackling, he's owned up to it. He says he's going to be better about it. And again, he's still second on the team, but like you need to tackle that guy in space. You cannot let Deebo Samuel beat you, because he's the one that's capable of the biggest plays. And I think those are the 2 things that stuck out: the yards after catch for San Francisco, and then how are you going to generate a pass rush if you're the Bears, because you're out without your 2 best pass rushers.
Because it's the yards after the catch for San Francisco, but then it's the lack thereof for Chicago. And then you look at the games in which they lose and where it feels really defeated when you're watching it is the games where the opposing team gets the back-breaking play. Like we saw that very early against LA as well, right? You know, the deep bomb to, I think it was Van Jefferson the first time or Van Jefferson. And you were like, how are we going to compete? We can't put up a 70-yard touchdown. We're not going to be able to compete with that. And we thought that would change when Justin Fields came to be the quarterback, and it hasn't yet. So that's where I get worried about playing teams who have, you know, those you know, back-breaking play abilities, because you just don't know if you can keep up with them, because that's not the way they run their offense. They want to run Khalil Herbert, ground and pound, win this game 20-17. That seems like their ideal situation for winning.
I mean, I don't know if it's ideal, but it may be the ceiling for this particular personnel group right now. I think that might be the case, just with this offensive line and with the fluctuation of who's in there. Obviously, last week was you know, a dumpster fire just before the game, trying to figure out who's going to play and who's going to be where and who took practice. God bless Jason Peters for his candor, where he just basically was like, yeah, man, this guy didn't even practice. And this guy never took snaps over here. And by the way, this guy's coming back this week, and the other guy's coming back next week. Like, good for you, Jason Peters. Thank you very much for being our news breaking source on that. So, like, I love that. It just made me laugh more than anything else. But I mean, that is a, you know, you hope that's a sign of better things to come, right? When you get Tevin Jenkins going at some point, this is your second round draft or your first round draft pick, or your first pick, second round pick. Sorry, your second round pick that you're. You're hoping this is maybe the left tackle of your future at some point, or at the very least for now, a solid right tackle for the latter half of the season. They desperately need it. They can't, you know, you want to have an ability for Justin Fields to be back there and look, because you got, you know, if you can break one, we haven't seen Darnell Mooney really get that shot. We haven't seen Damiere Byrd really get an opportunity to do something like, you know, or Marquise Goodwin. We were talking about 49ers. Like, Goodwin understands the yards after catch concept, and these guys just haven't had the chance to do much in space. And a lot of that is offensive line play and the lack of consistent pass protection, and maybe a lack of a full-on playbook because you don't feel comfortable with the protection the way it is. So you're rolling him out, you're cutting the field in half. And, you know, Fields was asked today, do you want to do more RPO stuff? And he's like, dude, I'm just trying to get touchdowns right now. Like, that's where we're at, because you don't know what this offensive line is capable of, what their ceiling is, because of the personnel, lack of good play, or a combination thereof.
Well, we've sort of gone around the subject, but the $1 million question, I mean, Justin Fields, you've seen Trey Lance. You mentioned you did San Francisco games already this season. Everyone else you've seen, what either encourages you about Justin Fields or what is disappointed you? Just watching him from an outside perspective, an objective perspective, and what does Justin Fields look like to you?
I mean, obviously, you know, the physical gifts are there. That's still obvious. That I don't think that's going to go away anytime soon, barring, you know, catastrophic injury. I think he'll be just fine in that regard for a long time to come, as long as he's healthy. The arm is there. I know the arm is there. He is capable of it. Some of the throws that he makes, he's had some errant throws, but I do like a lot of the throws. Remember, he's thrown 6 interceptions. 3 of them came last week. 5 of those interceptions have come on third down. So he hasn't grasped certain reads and progressions the way he needs to yet. And that's fair. I think that's a fair thing to say. Whether it's the third or fourth read, or what the sequencing is supposed to be, or where to look, or how to use your eyes, or whatever it may be. And then the holes close faster at this level. It's always the case. You know, that's always the case. At this level, when you go from college to NFL, that first year, everybody's dealing with this, right? Everybody's been dealing with this over the course of the last 3 or 4 years when guys get to this point in the league. Trevor Lawrence is the number 1 pick. Everybody thought this guy was one of the greatest. This is one of the greatest college quarterbacks ever. By far, one of the best 3-year college quarterbacks you will ever see. And he is having a world of issues right now. And I don't think anybody is saying it's because he's not physically capable. It's because he's trying to process things at a much faster rate than he ever has had to. And when he did, when you're playing Alabama, for a national title, you're playing Ohio State, those holes are going to feel a little bit closer to the NFL level. But remember, you're going to play Wake Forest's defense once a year. You're going to play Virginia Tech's, okay defense where they have the one NFL guy on the corner spot and the one linebacker that's going to be a 6th-round pick. And other than that, these are just guys. So that's a huge adjustment that Justin just hasn't caught up to yet. And that's not out of the ordinary. I think because we had such high hopes, because there's a lot riding on this pick, because of how we are emotionally attached to it now, because it's a quarterback picked by a regime in Chicago, and they've been starving for a legit one for a long, long, long time now. Our emotional attachment to Fields is going to propel us to believe that he's more than what he is, maybe, or we just expect more from him maybe too soon. That doesn't mean he's not capable of getting there. I just think maybe it's a little bit of a more normal or above average trajectory than an elite trajectory that we're all hoping for, right? I think that's kind of the way I wanted to say it.
And this is just what you being from Chicago, being around the Chicago sports media landscape. This is what happens in every single sport. You know, you get a guy that gets drafted to this city, and the expectations are through the roof more than in any other town. I mean, that's just the way it is here in Chicago. So, would your advice? Because this is where I get conflicted. Because there's people who say, and you kind of alluded to it, you know, kind of take a step back. You know, temper your expectations. But at the same time, you're thinking, this is the best quarterback prospect we've ever had. We know what he presents from a running standpoint. We haven't seen it. We know what he presents from a throwing standpoint. We haven't seen it. Should we temper our expectations or just focus on issues that are in other areas? What would your advice be to Bears fans who feel like they felt let down after, you know, having such high hopes?
I think you do have to kind of dig a little bit deeper into, you know, what is he good at? What can he improve upon? And then look at the elements and kind of factors surrounding him. So naturally, the way things have gone the last couple of years, Matt Nagy is going to get a little bit more blame from a general public perception than, say, a rookie quarterback is. And based on what you've seen so far, yeah, I think you can put a fair bit of blame on the coaching staff. I can't blame the coaching staff that their left tackle prospect or their offensive tackle prospect didn't work out, you know, or so far hasn't been able to take the field. Not that it hasn't. He might be great, you know, hopefully he is, but he hasn't had the chance to play in real NFL games in front of your future, you know, your quarterback of the future. He hasn't done that yet. You can't help injuries. You can't help, you know, David Montgomery dealing with injury right now. Tariq Cohen got hurt last year. Like these are, you know, these are certain things that you can't really help. So I can't put all of the blame on the coaching staff for that. Some of that, then you look at the next layer. Well, what did the front office do? Have they surrounded the quarterback with the right amount of talent? So all of those things can be argued fairly and say this is more of a factor or this is more of a factor. Everybody can make good cases for all three of those levels based on a couple of things. This being a players' league. This is a players' league. The players are the ones who are out there having to execute. The plan has to be good. You have to be able to put guys in a position to succeed. And then you have to have talent around it. And that has to be put in place by the people selecting and acquiring talent. So everybody gets a little bit of the blame. Are you going to put that on the rookie quarterback? Probably not. So yeah, I don't think Fields deserves as much blame as, you know, I guess for lack of a better term, the adults in charge.
Yeah, and look, I talked about the pressure too as well of the city, and you coming in, you know, as the Bulls play-by-play announcer, does the same pressure that applies to players apply to you as an announcer? Like, do you feel like, you know, the weight of the Chicago fan base is on you and how they evaluate you? Because this is a ruthless town, man, when it comes to sports. We know this. You listen to Chicago Sports Radio and the people that call in. You watch the comment section on our show as one just pops up on the screen right now. You know how ruthless these people are. Do you ever feel some of that heat when you're doing Chicago stuff?
I don't think so. You have to. I've had to separate myself from it. Remember, I've had a weird track too, and coincidentally enough, Benetti's been this way. Joe Davis, who's a good friend of mine, who I mentioned earlier, like he had it this way. We were national broadcasters before we were like truly like local at this level. Like obviously we all did minor league baseball, so we worked for teams and we were, you know, the team broadcaster at some stops, but not like this. This is the NBA. This is professional sports. So for the three of us, we were national broadcasters on television, on national TV, before we got the local job. And I think the fact that we're both in, and I'll put Wayne Randazzo in that mix as well. Like, you know, he was doing some national work before he did the New York Mets. The four of us all kind of have a little bit of that. I'm trying to remember the right word for it, but just kind of sensibility. Just that we have that national sensibility of trying to be down the middle in the sense of we're going to be as equal as we can, but you're going to know that we want our team to succeed. You're clearly going to know that. All four of us are excitable broadcasters. It comes out in our calls. But Damian Lillard hit a game winner against the Bulls last year. I'm not going to pretend that he didn't just make a friggin' amazing shot and not call it with some level of emotion. I'm obviously disappointed. I want the Bulls to hit the buzzer beater. But, like, you'll hear me go, you've heard me go nuts on plenty of big Bulls plays, but I'm not going to pretend that, like, Scotty Barnes the other night had a spin and dunk that was absolutely disgusting. Scotty Barnes is going to be a really good player, by the way. Like, it was ridiculous. Now, I will also say this too. We're also in full stadiums this year. Last year, we had nobody. So there is a big difference there. I should also indicate. I'm going to have to be bigger on road team calls when we're on the road, because you have to battle the crowd too. So, like, what you hear is from us, though, in general, is trying to be down the middle, but we're rooting for our team and we want success for our team. I don't feel any kind of pressure at this point to do anything other than what I've been doing. I know how I feel about the Bulls growing up with them. I know how I feel about the White Sox, having gone to plenty of games as a kid and having plenty of investment in that group now. I know what it's like how to feel as a Cub fan growing up, and I know how to feel as a Bears fan. I understand these things, and I'd like to believe that when my emotions come into play, it has more to do with giving a deeper understanding of the color of what people in this city deal with or are looking at or are paying attention to, rather than trying to play off as a homer or anything like that. I think information is good. I think knowledge is powerful. I think giving people as much of a sense around the country as to what's going on in this city with its sports teams, I think is good. But I understand that to certain people, it might come off as homerism or bias or whatever. Listen, man, it's going to sound biased at one point or another. We're saying good things about people that you may not like. So at some point, it's going to sound biased, and you may just tweet at that moment instead of the rest of the game. I'm also learning to deal with that as well. I'm learning how to deal with fans who see me one way and then hear me another, and then don't know how, they don't have that cognitive dissonance to be able to separate those things. And that's okay. That's not their job to do that. It's my job to worry about that. You don't have to worry about that. And I've gotten to the point where, as frustrated as I was at times during the White Sox series, you guys do you. I can't get upset at you for feeling how you feel or doing what you do. I'm getting better at just blocking it out and remembering that that's your job. You guys are fans. That's what you're going to do, whether I'm there or somebody else is there. And it doesn't really matter. I could be anybody on the planet. It just happens to be me, and c'est la vie. That's part of the gig, I guess.
Well, like I said earlier, just text us what you're thinking, and then we'll take it down and we'll disperse that information how we please. No, Adam, you're the Bulls guy, so we got to ask a couple Bulls questions. Obviously, fun team this year, really fun. Looks like a playoff team. You were in the Packed United Center for the first time the other night. I mean, just what was that first United Center experience like with a full house? And B, is Stacey really that crazy in real life too?
He's not that crazy in real life, first off. He is, but he is that funny. Like, he's not, he's way more chill off the air. And I think I am too. Like, we're both I think that's why we just work well together. We both have very, very, very similar personalities, but he's very chill off the air. As am I. We just like to hang out. We'll talk on the plane. We're very even keeled, but on the air, we really feel it, man. And last week was, I've said this at one point during the series or after the White Sox series, like Game 3 was like one of the most electric atmospheres I'd ever been in for any sporting event. Event. Probably like 10. If I had made a list of top 10 events I can remember, that would be on the top 10 list easily. And I've called probably 1,300 games. It's easily a top 10. The home opener there was a little bit I might stick that into the top 10 too. And I know I might be a victim of recency bias. It just felt different. I think with the lead up, with the 4-0 preseason, with all the moves that have been made in the summer, with what happened last year with bringing in a new front office, a new coach, and seeing Zach start to blossom a little bit, and seeing the additions and all that build up really led to a little bit of muted tension, I think, in the first couple of minutes. And then when they got going and started to run the floor, like it was an emotional moment. Like that was really cool for me to finally have that. I'm sure Stacey felt that too, just not having had that forget a couple of years. I mean, like the team hasn't really been able to deliver that type of buzz consistently for 4 quarters for a while. So, like just everything surrounding it, it probably hadn't felt that way in the city for a little while for the Bulls. And I know for Stacey, it probably felt that way for the first time in a bit. And definitely for me, having been like that was my first home game as the Bulls announcer on the floor with with a full house. Cause I think I had done 2 Bulls games at home prior, and that was for ESPN and ESPN radio. So it was a whole new experience for me. So I don't think I've ever, that could be a top 10 feeling, man. It really was one of those nights.
And, I think a lot of that is derived from Zach LaVine and just what kind of player he is, right? I mean, how explosive he is and exciting of a player he is. Do you think, and I asked this question a while back, and after Justin Fields was drafted, is he the biggest superstar in Chicago right now, Zach LaVine?
Yeah, I think so. I think it certainly is he might be the most easily recognizable right out of the gate. I mean, I think, Jose Abreu is pretty recognizable. I think Tim Anderson's pretty recognizable. But I think Zach is probably the most recognizable. He was just on a Mountain Dew commercial, like where, the Pelicans Hawks game's on, and I look up and it's like, oh, Zach and Zion Williamson are in a Mountain Dew commercial. Yeah. Like, this guy's a bona fide superstar now, and he's certainly earned that reputation. And I think he carries himself with a very good mentality about it, because he knows what it's like to not be a superstar. Like he knows what it's like to be on bad teams. We said it the other night. That's the first 4-game win streak that Zach's been a part of in the NBA. He was hurt during the Bulls streak in 17-18. He was still on the bench with that ACL injury. So he hadn't been a part of a 4-game regular season NBA win streak until the start of this season. And he's clawed really hard to get this recognition, and he was worked really hard to get there. So I think his demeanor is reflective of somebody who understands what it's like to be, here, and what it's like to be here after being with the Olympic team and kind of being around Durant and some of these champions, and being like, oh, so that's what that's like. And I've been down here, and now I'm starting to work up here, but I really want to get here. I think he carries himself with the demeanor of somebody who recognizes that.
Absolutely. And like I said, we just got a few more for it, then we'll let you get out of here. He electrifies the stadium. In all of your calls throughout your career, who are some guys, NFL or NBA, that you can think of that are comparable to that, where, it feels like they are just they own the moment. And I feel like at one point, to the pleasure of Bears fans, Justin Fields can be that guy. But who are some names that come to mind that just, they own that stadium? They single-handedly can light up 70,000 people.
When I was at ESPN and I was doing college football, I did in Lamar Jackson's Heisman season in 2016, I did his second game of that season. It was against Syracuse on the road on a Friday night. They had just played, I believe, Charlotte the week before, and he had a really good game, but it was Charlotte, and he hadn't really had a national stage. It wasn't on national TV. So we're like, okay, let's see what this kid has. First play of the game, 75-yard flick for a touchdown, just a flick of the wrist touchdown. Next series, he had a 75-yard pull and run for a touchdown. And I remember stealing Jeff Joniak's call. I told Jeff this a couple of years later, that I stole his Devin Hester, "You are ridiculous" call for Lamar Jackson that night. That was the night. You've seen the highlight probably where he hurdles a defender running left towards the edge, and he hurdles over a Syracuse defender and scores a touchdown. That was one of the, I think, 5 or 6 touchdowns he had that night, and at a 400-yard offensive night or something like that, or 500-yard offensive night, whatever it was. that was his like coming out party. That is like people were like, oh, this guy's different. And then he beat Florida State the week after, and he was off to the races for the Heisman. He electrified that place, and it was silence because it was a road game. He electrified that place. So I remember that distinctly. I would say for the NBA, it's LeBron at the top of the list. I've done a lot of LeBron playoff games. Did a bunch of his game sevens. I've done a couple of his 40-point games in the playoffs. I've done a buzzer beater of his in Cleveland against Toronto in Game 3 of a playoff series. He's up there. And then I can't remember what game. It was the clinching game of a second-round series a couple of years ago. The Warriors were playing the Rockets in Houston, and they were up 3-2 in the series, and Curry goes scoreless in the first half. And I was like, that's incredible. And then he scored 30 plus. And then he scored 30 plus in the second half, and he did it on a bum thumb. He had a messed up finger, and he was still able to put up 30 plus and get the Warriors to the conference finals. And I think those guys are special. There's a reason that they are who they are. The LeBron games, especially, the guy just took over a game like nobody else. Kyrie Irving, I had one of his big games in the playoffs. He had scored 42. I think against Boston in a conference final series 4 or 5 years ago. And, those are guys that can just take it over. They can take over games. Adrian Peterson had one of his 200-plus yard rushing games at Lambeau Field back 2015 or 16, something like that. Like, there are some guys that you just, your eyes kind of pop when you see them.
All right, so would you rather do, let's say NBA Finals Game 7, Bulls, whoever, Super Bowl, or World Series Game 7? Which one are you picking?
Oh man, that would be the toughest question, because people ask me like, "What's your favorite sport?" And I don't have one. I honestly, it's not a cop out answer. If you tell me, or if you ask me on a night where I'm doing, Bulls Knicks at Madison Square Garden, I might tell you it's the NBA. If you ask me, in the middle of a Sunday afternoon in Baltimore, like we'll have next week, then it's probably the NFL. And if you ask me in the middle of a playoff baseball game, I'll probably say it's baseball. But that's the question. I don't know which one I would want the most. I think there's my old answer. I think I still stick with. I think it's a Game 7 of a World Series, because there's a game. The drama of a Game 7 in baseball just has something special to it, and the hope that you get something just incredibly dramatic, I think carries you pretty deeply. So I think Game 7 of a World Series probably is at the top of the list.
Adam, thank you so much, man. This has been a blast. Really appreciate you. Real quick, where are you making Greg take you to dinner Friday night?
Well, he's one of these guys that has like a stake in an ownership group or something like that. So he's going to be like, let's go to the restaurant that I used to frequent every single night that I was in town when I lived here. So wherever it is, I'm sure it's going to be awesome. And he's, I got a chance to talk to him a couple days ago for the second or third time, and just a really good dude, man. He's going to be really good. Like, he's already good at this, but he's one of those guys, man. He just gets this. He's just a natural when it comes to doing this stuff and being on TV and covering games. So we're excited to hang out a little bit. And I told him, come to the game Saturday night. They're more than welcome to. Since we're in town, I was like, yeah, if you guys want to come, let me know.
Bulls Jazz, right? Is that what it is?
Bulls Jazz.
That's gonna be a good one, man. That's gonna be
test.
A fun one. So
good
weekend of Chicago sports, man. Seriously.
Yeah, man.
You're all over
cool.
it.
This is cool. This is cool. I swear to you, I don't take it for granted when you get a couple breaks. We had we get the White Sox at home. That's a big deal for me. To be home for a couple playoff games, and we didn't do Game 2, so we got to go home, and I got to host my baseball crew in town and take them out to dinner to some places. And you get a whole weekend at home in Chicago to call 3 games for your hometown teams. It's not too bad, right?
No, not at all. We can't wait to hear it, man. We can't wait to hear you on Thursday, on Saturday, and then especially on Sunday. Adam, appreciate you, man. Thank you so much.
Thanks, boys. Appreciate it.
That was Adam Amin, everybody. You know him. We know him.
Legend, man.
That was awesome.
Man.
No, that was a lot of fun. Hey, like we've been saying on this show, and he told you, and I think Adam Amin is our third guest to say it now. Patience. Just relax, everybody. It's gonna be fine with Justin Fields. It's gonna
really
gonna
start listening to these guys, man. I mean,
we try, because we know they don't listen to us, so we try to bring in people that you people, the listeners and the viewers, will listen
for
to.
you.
And apparently it's not working still. But anyway, huge thanks to Adam. That was awesome. and he gave us a new nickname for our other friend, Adam Hoagie, Adam Sandwich. So we will be using that for sure. But no, thanks to Adam. That was awesome. Kevin, I mean, last time we talked was Sunday after the game. Hey, I haven't talked to you in a couple days. How's it going, man? How you doing?
It's going all right. Living the dream. How are you, man? Are you doing well? How's the new show at 670? Right? I mean,
we're just cruising. Hit a huge home run prop last night.
Yes, I see. If you guys don't follow this man on Twitter, you could be making some serious money. He had Adam Duvall. What was it? Plus 380 for a home run.
330 and the RBI plus 200.
What's the new show you're doing though?
No, BetQL daily every day in Chicago time, 8 to 11. And then when you bet, a couple hours later, 2 to 6. But anyway, we're going to talk about the Bears, goddammit. So, I think Adam brought up a bunch of what really stuck out to me about what Adam said, the progression of Justin Fields is more of a above average to really good tier rather than the elite tier or trajectory, I think was the word he used.
Trajectory was the word he used.
And, I think that's a perfect example, and it's kind of another way of what I've been saying. Everyone wants a Justin Herbert, trajectory,
right?
And it's not going to be that. So again, listen to our guests if you're not going to listen to us. But Kevin, I mean, we got to get into this game. Adam gave us a little bit of insight, some really good insight, and into this game. I mean, he was right. Everything he said about the 49ers was correct. Their defense, I mean, Bosa is unbelievable. It was interesting they said Debo was probably the best player on the field. I thought that was interesting. Probably not wrong, but interesting.
Yeah, I mean that when he said that, I was like,
you were stunned.
I was like, really? And then I start going down the list,
and I'm
like, and I'm like, shit, yeah, he's not right. And the one that kind of sealed it for me when I came to that final realization that he was right was he's the one player in the field that can just break a game. And that's what did it, like excluding Khalil Mack, which is important because he's because Khalil Mack is one of those guys that can break a game. He's done it consistently, game wrecker. But you kind of think about it on the offensive side of the ball for the Bears. There's nobody that's a game wrecker. The running backs are really good, but they're not game wrecker. Like they're not like the only running back in the
Justin
league.
Fields
I think
can be one day.
Yeah, but he's not there yet. The only running back in the league who's a game wrecker is Derrick Henry, like a true game wrecker at this moment is Derrick Henry. So I'm thinking, the only guy that's possibly comparable on the Bears side would be Roquan Smith. But again, like he's not a game wrecker. So that's like, he's not wrong. Like Deebo Samuel isn't a guy. And this is why I think this is important as well. In the past, and even this year, like Deebo Samuel probably got drafted in like the 8th round of your fantasy draft, maybe even later. Like Brandon Ayuk was supposed to be better than him. All these guys supposed to be better than him. George Kittle, he's supposed to be the focal point of the offense. And out of nowhere comes Deebo Samuel because they do the right things with him. They utilize him correctly. They give him the ball in space. And it's like, we're going to give you 10 yards of separation between you and the defender. And we're going to let you be Deebo Samuel and use your supreme athletic ability to win against anybody. That's why you see players like him in offenses take that leap. Going from a guy who was the third option receiving in 2020 to a now one player and a 2-team game that is not the only, but the most important game wrecker on the field. So he's not wrong. I mean, Deebo's a guy you got to watch out for, and they do really well offensively. And he alluded to this as well, getting guys in space, yards after the catch. And it scares you, right? Because the Bears haven't been good at open field tackling all year. And
in 2 years, last year too.
In 2 years. I mean, I would say they've been better this year than they have been last year. As an aggregate. But I don't know. It worries me because I know Kyle Shanahan, although surprisingly, Jake, they're calling for his head in San Francisco.
Yeah,
I mean,
imagine. I think it's kind of like Adam said. It's a lot of eye candy, a lot of bells and whistles, but end product. I mean. They've been a disappointing team. It's at the end of the day, I think they have fallen flat a little bit. This is a winnable game, though. And it's unfortunately you are home underdogs, which, I mean, that doesn't happen very often. You're 3.5 right now. It was funny enough when it was announced that Matt Nagy was not going to be coaching this game.
No way.
It was 3.5. The line moved to 3. So everyone, the public thinks that, and they might not be wrong, that with Chris Tabor, whatever, head coaching this team instead of Matt Nagy, that you're a half a point better with your special teams coach is the head coach of this team. Which, I mean, we did throw out Tabor's name out there as, a guy who would possibly be the interim. And I mean, that kind of confirms that thought that we had last week. But I mean, this is gonna say. I mean, with Tabor on the sideline, and if he won't be calling plays. We know. I mean, he's the special teams coach. Laser will be calling the plays, but I mean, if you go win this game handily, like with Nagy not there, I'll stand by it. He's still not going to get fired.
Yeah.
But I mean, that'll say a lot. Like that'll be some damning evidence.
I'm trying to think about whether it will or not, because the thing people have to know about
consider
this.
the factors though too. Consider, because you're not going to have Khalil Mack, you're not going to have Robert Quinn, you're not going to have David Montgomery still. You're missing a lot of key guys. Who knows what the offensive line is going to look like? So I mean, considering all those factors, if you go out, I mean, because San Francisco, they've been disappointing, but their defense is still pretty damn good. And so if you go out there and score 30 and you win, like that's going to be some damning evidence against Nagy.
And there's going to be people in the comments and people listening to this who say, well, he still has a say in it, right? No, the protocols are, if you are out due to COVID, you have zero communication with the team on Sunday. No, I'm just saying that's important because people are going to say, okay. He had some sort of influence on Sunday. Like, you can't just say that the elimination of his presence meant the team did better. Well, no, you might be able to say that because he literally was not there. And here's what's going to be most telling. You can take, like, this has a lot of moving parts, because there's going to the Nagy homers, of which there are very few, are going to say, well, it just happened to be that they got their right tackle, Larry Borom, back right as the time that Nagy went away. So maybe the offense is, if it does look better because of Borom, not because of Nagy being, those things. But the thing that you have to consider is like I forgot my train of thought. Damn it, I forgot my train of thought.
In that same vein, let's stick with that Larry Borom thing. This is his first NFL start. Like, this is going to be right. He didn't start week 1, right?
No, he got slotted
he did.
in.
He did start week 1. That's when he got hurt.
Don't know.
But anyway,
I thought it was week 2.
So this is his second NFL start. Like, this is and he's coming off a high ankle sprain, which is like
I remember
decent. Go ahead. You found your train of thought again.
Real quick. We'll go back to Borom. What me telling you can talk about whatever you want about stats about Borom. What's me telling is what you see on the sideline and the limited camera angles that Fox gives us. Watch what you see, because this team, it's noticeable. It's noticeable even through a video camera to see the energy and see just kind of, the vibe that's going on the sidelines and who's talking to Justin Fields, right? We brought that up last show. If you see sort of a different energy without him, that's one of those factors that is truly influenced by the absence of him. Whereas, the way the offensive plays, the way the defensive plays, you can find different factors, but their vibe and the way that they react and the way their energy on the sideline is truly influential of his absence. That's what you have to look out for. But back to Borom, what are your expectations for him? Because this is another situation, Jake. You talk about Justin Fields and expectations. People think Larry Borom, as much as he may be better than Latavius Simmons, is, people are saying this is elite, man. We're going to get the offensive line's fixed. We're back. What do you?
I mean, you have to figure San Francisco is going to send Bosa against Borom. I mean, not that Jason Peters is a much better option than Borom, but I mean, he's a rookie coming off an ankle injury. Like, you're going to send your best defender that way. So I think, I mean, it's going to be hard to evaluate Borom. It's been hard to evaluate not hard to evaluate the offensive line. I don't know. We'll probably still have people yelling about Sam Mustipher. I don't know, but again,
where are the Mustipher fellas in the chat today?
This is again, just to go back to this is a winnable game. Like, you have to. I mean, I know you're home dogs, but you should win this game, right? I don't know.
So okay,
you're missing so many people on defense.
You're not. You're not missing that.
You're missing your two best players. Well,
I know. I think well, Robert Quinn. If Robert Quinn follows the same trend Damian Williams followed, and he's vaccinated, I have every reason to believe he's going to play. Damian Williams missed 1 week and then came back. Robert Quinn, did he play last week, or did he just go on the COVID list? Right. That's what I thought. He had gone out beforehand. Damian Williams came back last week. Missed 1 game, came back. He's vaccinated. He doesn't have to stay out as long. I think Robert Quinn is going to play, but you're missing Khalil Mack. You might. Akeem Hicks was limited. Everybody else was limited on the defensive side. I think
Khalil Mack's the only one who didn't practice.
It's funny how we do this every. Yes, we don't expect him, but it's Khalil Mack maybe pulls off a miracle. I don't know. We do this every week, though.
No. I think it was Rappaport tweeted he's out. Like, they're considering an IR stint for him.
Well, they said he's not expected to play, and then considering IR stint. So I don't think there's been an official designation that he's out. But
I mean, even when Adam was talking about
we'll evaluate this game as if he's out. We'll evaluate this game.
It doesn't sound like anyone's expecting him to play.
Like I said, 0.01% chance. Miracle. I don't know, but. You're right. Like the reason why I say, because there's gonna be people, Jake, who hear you say they should win this game and say, "What the fuck are you talking about? Like, get the hell out of here, turn off the mic, and go home." There's gonna be people who say that, and go somewhere else. I go to the bar and grab a beer because clearly you need it. If you're making that kind of take, this happens every week. We get angry on Sunday, and then we come to our senses on Wednesday. But even on Sunday, I said this, and you said this, like. They lost 38-3, ugly fashion. Games get away from you. They're not as bad as what they showed last Sunday against the Buccaneers. People don't they beat these teams earlier in the season. They have beaten the number 1 and number 2 seeds in the AFC.
That's so insane. That makes me so mad. It makes me so mad.
And that's not going to be there is 0% chance both those teams are number 1 and 2 at the end of the year. But we have to evaluate as it is week 8, and that's the facts, and you can't deny it. Bengals and Raiders 1 and 2. But it just goes to the fact they can beat these teams. Yeah. They can beat San Francisco. They should beat San. That's why we use that language, because they should, because they are capable of doing it. So this week, this is going to be an ugly fucking football game. It is going to be ugly, Jake.
It's a make your eyes bleed game.
Yeah, make your eyes bleed game. And at first, when you said that, I kind of reacted. I was like, well, maybe not necessarily. And I was like, you know what? It is.
The more you think about it.
This has every. This is going to be so 17-13. It's not even. It's not even funny. It's going to be so Bears win 17-13. Ugly God. Football game. We come away from it thinking having no idea what to think. Does that not? This game screams. What's the weather for? It's probably going to be 40 degrees and cloudy. It's 17-13. Lock. I don't even know if actually
Sunday partially cloudy, high of 55. That's not
high of 50. That's such a fall Chicago Bear football game. Any rain in the forecast? I don't think so.
Not
if there's rain, I would say we're looking at a 2-0 game. Maybe one safety gets in there.
It's supposed to rain tomorrow and Friday, and then it's over.
Yeah, but anyway,
you're right. No, you're right. This game is just going to be so ugly. Here's the Justin Fields breakout has to happen at some point, right?
It does. You're playing roulette with the schedule, though. You're playing roulette with the schedule. It's one game, but you don't know what it's going to be. I do have this sense that it could happen against it. Because Jake, the reason why I say that real quick, I know I've been, kind of ranting here. The Buccaneers last week were the 28th worst ranked pass defense, and then this week you play the fifth best pass defense. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you that
Jared Payne did tell you that Jared Payne did try to tell you at some point you have to throw those stats out the window.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Exactly. You have to throw them out with this offense. You're playing roulette. It could happen against a good team. It could happen against a bad team. So that's why I'm not putting too much into the stats there. Speak your piece now.
No, I mean, you're right. I mean, it's going to be an ugly game. You're probably right. It's going to be a very low-scoring, disgusting game that is just going to watch this be like a 2-hour and 25-minute game just because both teams are just going to be running the ball. It's just going to be 60 carries between the two teams. I mean, it's going to be an ugly game. You should win this. I don't know. I've just because I have no idea. Because we don't know, which is silly to say because we're about to be 8 weeks into the season, almost halfway through, and we still don't know how this team responds to real adversity, honestly. I mean, week 1, I guess you could call adversity, yeah, but you lost a couple of people. You were doing Andy Dalton starting still.
You're going to lose that game.
Yeah, I mean, this is your first shot, I guess, to have a bounce back week. Really? I mean, because we can't see the 49ers better than the Bengals because, for obvious reasons. So it's it's weird to put this game in a scope of the rest of the season. Getting Boren back definitely helps. If Quinn plays and Hicks plays, you can definitely survive. I mean, because it's Garoppolo. I think I would feel worse about this game if Lance was starting probably, but Lance is also prone to mistakes. So I don't know, it's a hard balancing act to kind of handicap this game because we really don't know like there's so much that's up in the air with both of these teams. I love how the end of episodes always ends lately with you lean back just holding the microphone. I kind of love it though. I like it. It's a good move.
Killing me.
I don't hate it. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, you're not gonna have Mac. I'm gonna assume for right now you don't have Quinn. You don't have Nagy. That's a plus. I'm gonna assume you have Hicks. He practiced today. I'm gonna assume you have Akeem Hicks.
Okay. Make your prediction now. I mean, I feel like you want to do it.
Bears win 24-10. No,
24-10.
You're right. I think 13
24
was right.
13.
24-13. 24-13.
One of the teams is scoring 13 points. Like it's if one of the team is scoring 13 points, it's gonna be one of them. I mean,
it'll be like a 13-9 game.
Honestly, yeah. But see, it's so funny. Bro. It's so funny, Jake, because we're gonna say this, and the score is gonna be 35-31. Right, like it's so like
we're gonna get a
because again, burner. that's just like again, like that's just strange thing about these teams. Like these teams both have the offenses to do it. Personnel wise, they both have the chance to do it. And shit, like we said, you're playing roulette. Maybe this is. I mean, Justin Fields said it himself on the mic. He said the breakout game is coming. I think it was Justin that said that. Maybe it was Nagy. It was somebody that said the breakout game is coming. Like it is going to arrive. And like for him, the breakout game has been lowered to where that is 250 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's the breakout game. I mean, no, it is because you look at what he's put together. Like the breakout game is no longer 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a rushing touchdown. The expectations have been tempered. It's okay, above average now as Adam Amin said, above average is now the breakout game. So if you see 250, 2 touchdowns, maybe a rushing touchdown in there, that's like, shit, okay, he's arrived. Maybe we figured something out. And that's what I think. I'm not expecting on it. I'm not banking on it. I'm not going to put my money on it. Is it possible? Could this be the week that it happens? Sure, it could. Because it didn't happen last week. Didn't happen against an injured Green Bay Packers team. Maybe it happens this week. You're playing roulette.
Honestly, all I need from Justin Fields this week, because honestly, if the offense is if Khalil Herbert has 150 yards and 3 touchdowns, that's fine with me. All I need from Justin Fields, given what happened in Tampa Bay, I just need to see that Justin Fields still has that swagger, still has that confidence. Just show me that like that game didn't rattle you. Like that's my main concern. And I mean, if you turn on ESPN, you turn on FS1, that's all they've been talking about when they talk about the Bears. Did Justin Fields get rattled against Tampa Bay? And I'm not expecting him to be rattled. I don't think he was rattled given his college history, given just how he carries himself. I don't think that's the case, but I'll feel better when I see it still. Like I'll feel better when he's not like, hearing footsteps behind him and he's getting rid of the ball too fast, or he's, skittish, or to use an old Mitch Trubisky term, has the happy feet. Like just show me you can still be that calm, cool guy that, we think is going to be here for the next 10 years,
And here's why it's different. And you just alluded to it. I've alluded to it. I mean, the dude was a freaking cold-blooded killer in college, and he would very rarely lose games. But after he would lose games,
he quoted it. He said, "I'm not used to this. I'm not."
That's
used to
the point. And this is where it's different. He lost, I don't know, twice in college, maybe 3 times if you include the playoff.
Yeah.
He's now lost 3 games in a span of starting 6 times or laying on the field 5, I think it's 5 times now, starting 5 times. Like this is different. And that's why this is so important. That's why Jake brings this up this is like college and the NFL are extremely different in a lot of ways. But the biggest way arguably
Adam talked about some of them.
Adam talked about some of them. How he reacts is going to be very important because I know there were some, he was kind of, and look, what do you want the kid to do? All right. He's sitting back on the bench with his eye black looking, kind of angry and rightfully so. Like he's pissed off. He hasn't played his best, but if you see that body language carry over, and this is one of those things where you as a person, no matter what your level of football knowledge is, I don't care if you know every single formation and every single personnel package, and you can tell me what this guy's doing at this given time. Those guys are extremely intelligent. If you're the average fan who's, what's the phrase, the armchair quarterback, or the armchair coach, if you're the armchair coach and you're sitting there with a bag of Fritos and a beer, you can see somebody's body language and tell if they are, have either bounced back or not. You don't have to know anything about football. You just know the way people react. And it's going to be evident to everybody and the people who are watching, but the players on the field. And that's why I think it's really important that he comes back, runs out of that tunnel with a whole lot of swagger. He's got the city behind him. You're back at Soldier Field in Chicago, a hard place to play. You've got the city who is still supporting you. This isn't a situation where it was last year where half of the stadium was against you and half of the stadium wasn't. That's what it was with Mitch Trubisky. You have confidence of 60,000 people in the stadium. The way he carries himself, especially early in the game, is going to be very, very telling at how he reacts. And quite frankly, of what we know of him, I have full confidence he's going to walk out of that. It's like that meme, that GIF of the Undertaker coming out of the casket. You know what I mean? That's what I feel like we're going to get.
You win the toss, you have to get the ball first, right? Like you win the toss, you have to take the ball first and go on offense first, right?
And make a statement.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they did that last week. At home, it differs. Yeah, I think at home, you need
a bounce back performance from last week.
And shit, they did it against who did they do it against? They did it against Green Bay, right? Did they? No. I don't think they started the ball that game. But
I don't think so. Maybe.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Chad the Bird is, but all right.
Chad's on. I think he's the guy that follows our show. So
all right. Well, we'll get out of here. All right, Kevin. I already made a prediction. You're up now. So your prediction.
Yeah, look, I know it sounds outrageous. I'm going Bears 17-13. I mean, what the hell are we talking about here? Our predictions have been pretty good this year. We're both 5-2. Our score predictions have been.
We've been pretty close.
We've been pretty. Yours have been pretty close. Mine have been somewhat close, but I don't think they've been close as yours. But we're both 5-2, so trust us. You got to trust us. But this is why we keep bringing guests. Next week, we got another good one. Can't reveal it yet, but the run of guests is incredible. We shout out our guy Ernie Skadden for that, the guy who creates the intros. He's the man. Does all of it.
Ernie.
So Ernie, the guy. But hey, man, hopefully the Bears pull it off, and then 4-4, and we're gonna get reeled back in. We're gonna get reeled.
It's already happening.
It's already happening. So let's go.
Oh God, it's already happening. All right. Well, we're both going Bears win in a very, very ugly game. And then, we see what happens against the Steelers on Monday night after that. Then you have an extended break. So, well, I mean, a little bit of extended. It's Monday, but whatever. Anyway, that's us. Shout out to Adam Amin again for coming on. We appreciate it. I'm going to try what Kevin does right now. I'm going to see how I feel about this. So, no, I don't like it.
Oh, that's kind of nice. Your audio sounded pretty good.
Did it really?
Yeah,
see,
it sounds
I don't know.
nice.
I like seeing myself. I don't know what that says about me. But anyway, shout out to Adam. Great to have him on. He was awesome. A lot of fun. Adam, we're serious. Text us what you're thinking during the game. We swear we won't attribute it to you, but we'll just, whatever. Anyway, for myself, for Kevin, this has been Bears Nation Podcast. We will see you nerds on Monday or Sunday. Don't know. We'll play it by ear, but we'll see you later this week. And as always, bear down.
Bear down.
Bye.